Good morning. I have just one slide on when to suspect and three very short cases. So, causes of prolonged fever, that is when fever goes beyond 3 weeks and we have not excluded. So, yes, like what Dr. Vipul said and what has been discussed, infections are the leading cause in our country. And we think of inflammatory causes and rheumatological diseases only once we have excluded infections and malignancies. So, and there are some other rare causes. So, for the inflammatory diseases, when we are suspecting them, then we must have ruled out infections and malignancies. We divide these inflammatory diseases as either vasculitis or autoimmune diseases. Now, vasculitis are large vessel vasculitis like Takayasu arthritis or giant cell temporal arthritis, medium vessel like polyarthritis or Kawasaki, and small vessel, those ANCA-associated vasculitis one. They have specific symptoms and manifestations. According to that we can pick up. For other autoimmune diseases, they are again divided into those with autoantibodies and those without antibodies. Once we have those autoantibodies like ANA or ANCAs or rheumatoid factor, anti-CCP, it becomes easier. But for the diseases which are autoantibody negative, again they can also cause fevers. So among the diseases with no autoantibodies, there are the ones with constant or irregular fevers like Still's disease or adult onset Still's disease. They are present both in children and adults. Sarcoidosis, Kikuchi's disease, Castleman disease, and there's a totally new or a spectrum where these are hereditary fever syndromes, where a fixed pattern fever comes and goes at a fixed interval of time, and they need specific treatment, and they are because of some specific gene defects. So most of our baseline tests actually give us the help how to proceed in these patients. Like anemia is a common feature in all inflammatory diseases. But when we are finding leukocytosis, WBC count is on the higher side, we are probably more looking towards Still's disease or vasculitis or some lymphoproliferative diseases or malignancies. When we are seeing leukopenia, WBC count is on the lower side, 3,000, 3,500, 4,000. Probably then we are dealing with connective tissue disease. Only then we should think of ordering ANA. If count is 30,000, 15,000, 20,000, probably we should order a CAR. Thrombocytosis is again a manifestation of systemic ongoing inflammation. Thrombocytopenia would suggest connective tissue diseases like lupus, Sjogren's, or viral illness, or advanced leukemias or lymphomas. Serial reports, if we make a big chart, because these patients come with 2 months, 4 months of fever, those charts actually give us the best possible idea and indication. Serial acute phase reactant trends, urine examination, if there are active sediments, they'll suggest that okay, kidneys are also involved, so then you'll think of those diseases. Viral markers should always be ruled out because they are mimics and they can present with all possible manifestations. And those specific autoimmune serologies, ANA, ANCA, ACE level, those are only helpful in confirming a likely diagnosis. They don't make the diagnosis. That we'll see in our patients. So this is the first patient. 60-year-old male who presented with fever of 101 degree Fahrenheit, 1 spike per day, no chills, no rigor. With this, in this 4 months, he had lost 7 kgs. There was generalized weakness, malaise. Apart from this, no other low findings. No joint pain, skin rash, no ENT complaint, nothing in lungs, abdomen, anything. Past history, he was ex-smoker, no other comorbid illness. So examination, hemodynamically stable, we had pallor, weight was 49 kg. ENT examination showed left side turbinate hypertrophy and mild erythema, nasal mucosa, rest everything was normal. So extensively evaluated, Blood and urine cultures were sterile, Brucella serology negative, MON2 negative, viral markers negative, procalcitonin normal, electrophoresis showed polyglobal hypergammaglobulinemia, and echo was normal. Then we made a chart of all his investigations. I have just got a few of them. So this was in 2016. So from the beginning there was leukocytosis, and if we see, it was more neutrophilic leukocytosis. It was always neutrophil predominant. Gradually he developed thrombocytosis also. Liver and kidney functions were okay. Acute phase reactants were always high. Ferritin was on the higher side, although 800, 900. Then specific tests were done. So ANA was negative and ANCA was positive here. And NPO by ELISA was 65. So evaluation, probably we are dealing with a small vessel vasculitis, ANCA associated. So we search which organ is involved with the vasculitis here. So ultrasound abdomen showed mild hepatomegaly with periportal lymph node. Chest, CT chest shows lymphocytomatous change and few mediastinal lymph nodes. Color Doppler for superficial temporal artery was essentially normal atherosclerotic changes according to its age. And a bone marrow aspiration biopsy was done, which showed reactive changes. All cell lines were increased with increased granulocytosis, which was reflected in the peripheral smear. So if we summarize what all we had with this much of investigation, this was a 60-year-old male with a COPD, and what all he had was fever, weight loss, some nasal inflammation, leukocytosis, thrombocytosis, raised acute phase reactant, raised ferritin, and ANCA positive. There was no pulmonary renal manifestation, no manifestation of vasculitis anywhere. You couldn't biopsy any other organ. So overall working symptom was like adult onset Still's disease, although by definition antibodies must be negative. So we kept this MPO and the background, and we treated, as there was no organ threatening manifestation, we treated him with steroid in tapering doses and methotrexate. By 3 months he was off steroid, methotrexate was continued. Over 1 year he stopped therapy and he had a flare of symptoms in May 17, which could again be managed by short dose of steroid and methotrexate. He is still under follow-up, doing well, and he is currently on 15 milligram of methotrexate off steroids for last 1.5 years. So essentially he is behaving more like Still's disease, although this, and has not evolved into a vasculitis. So those autoantibodies can sometimes be there. We don't need to jump on those antibodies. Second case is, once there is already a patient with rheumatic disease. I just brought in this because these patients are chronic diseases. Most autoimmune diseases are like chronic diseases like diabetes, hypertension. So even if they are diagnosed with a particular disease, they will always see you first for any new symptom. So what if those patients are on methotrexate or azathioprine or mycophenolate or those immunosuppressive people? What generally people from very periphery states, they say if we are on these medicines, nobody is they will say we won't see you. You just directly for small symptoms, they have to come to big cities and they are really troubled. So yes, in these patients, if there is fever, it's always a crucial question whether it's a disease fever or there's a new infection. And sometimes it is very difficult to differentiate because the treatments are totally opposite. One side we are giving immunosuppressive or modulatory treatment, and other side it's antibiotics. So this was one series of 487 patients of SLE with fever, and they found that cause of fever, around 42% has fever because of SLE per se, 55% had fever because of infection. So here also, even in this group, infections are number one. And sometimes the most tricky situation is this, when both of them are there. Disease flare is also there, and on top of it there is infection also. And sometimes it would be that life-threatening that you have to treat both infection as well as the disease flare. And these patients are at risk of malignancy, so 0.8% malignancy and 0.8% other causes. So this is the second patient in small case. 20-year-old female with fever for 3 months, dry cough for 3 months, and multiple joint pain for 2 months. And she had developed some facial rash for 2 weeks. So it all started 8 months back when she had some cervical lymph nodes, which was for which she was empirically started on antitubercular therapy at her village. 5 months after ETT, the lymph nodes actually did not regress and she developed few more lymph nodes. So after 5 months on ETT, she developed hybrid fever and dry cough and multiple small and large joint pain with early morning stiffness. This time she was detected to have a hemoglobin of 4. She was transfused 4 units of blood and some symptomatic treatment. She was okay, but again after 1 month she again developed generalized weakness, for which again she received 2 units of blood transfusion. By this time she had developed some rash, malar rash on the base and hepatosplenomegaly. So then she was referred to Ahmedabad. She was admitted and extensively evaluated here. So chest showed bilateral lower lobe atelectasis with pleural effusion and probably the outflow consolidation there. Her ENA was 4 plus homogeneous with high dsDNA, low complements. Direct and indirect Coombs tests were positive, and she had anemia, leukopenia, platelets on the lower side, normal CRP with a very high ESR. So lupus patients, active lupus, CRP is always normal by Richter. ESR will be high. My lupus patients have anti-CRP antibodies. They don't have high CRPs unless there is infection or arthritis. So procalcitonin was normal, blood and urine cultures were steroid. So she was diagnosed to have lupus with manifestations of mucocutaneous, musculoskeletal and hemolytic anemia. She was started on 1 milligram per steroid because there was some consolidation, so a cover of antibiotic was also given. Within 10-15 days, most of her symptoms improved. Arthritis improved, rash improved, pleuritic chest pain and effusion improved. But fever persisted. Now, again, another set of cultures and another set of antibiotics were given. She was also given empirical antimalarial. What happened? Fever actually became daily. It increased in frequency and she started having daily fever, and these fevers were coming in the evening around 8 to 10 in the night and used to subside by morning. And along with fever, she had a headache. So for headache, she was evaluated, a CSF examination, an MRI brain, a fundus examination, all was normal. So once we had excluded everything, we again thought, no, probably it's disease fever only, it's lupus fever. So what we did, we added naproxen and we split her steroid dose. What was happening, she was receiving steroid in the morning and that was Omnapodil, so prednisone. Its half-life, the duration of action is around 6 to 8 hours. So by 6 or 7 p.m. in the evening, the effect of steroid was waning off. So we gave her out of 40 milligram, 30 in the morning and 10 milligram in the evening. With that, all the fever was okay. And then gradually we added a steroid sparing agent and tapered her off steroids over the next 3 months. So some of these fevers can be really challenging. So in these patients who are already patients of rheumatic disease, again any fever infection needs to be ruled out first. And if by examination, by investigation, these investigations may take some weeks. If the treating physician or rheumatologist is thinking, no, probably the disease is also active, and there are active manifestations of disease in the form of joint pain, ulcers, skin rashes. So then a short course of steroids, escalate the steroids. Sometimes if the fever responds to it, probably it is disease fever. Sometimes those serologies like double-stranded DNA and complements, they also help to differentiate disease fever. And it may take time. So during that time, a close follow-up and discussion with the patient is important. The last one is the fever of some cause and antibody. Last one slide. So this patient I saw 2 days back. This gentleman had 56-year-old gentleman fever for 3 weeks, which was 101 degree Fahrenheit, 1 spike a day, with occasional left shoulder pain, no other localization. He was evaluated on OPD basis and its rheumatoid factor and anti-CCP was strongly positive, ESR and CRP was high and there was no other localizing point. So the dictum in rheumatology is generally rheumatoid arthritis never presents with fever. If a patient of rheumatoid arthritis is coming with fever, probably there is some other cause. So either a complication of rheumatoid vasculitis or you need to search for alternative diagnosis. So we did a CECT chest endowment to look for cause of fever because it was not because of those rheumatoid factor and anti-CCP. And CT showed enhancing mediastinal and penetrative lymph node with central necrosis. So probably this gentleman has TB or something like that, and the plan is to evaluate with a TBNA or with a BAL study. So these autoantibody positivity never are not a diagnostic test for rheumatic diseases. It's the pattern recognition, and lab test should be taken seriously only if it is matching the clinical finding for which patient has come. So take home message is again a rule of thumb remains that for that fever we must promptly rule out systemic infections. Inflammatory cause only after infections and malignancies are ruled out because our treatment is like that which may mask these diseases. And autoantibody positive alone does not suffice for the diagnosis. We saw in our two cases. A rheumatologist armamentarium consists of drugs that modulate or suppress immunity, and to administer these drugs may mask some malignancies or it can be catastrophic if there is an ongoing infection there. So thank you very much.
We'll be taking only one question each, and I have got one